So let's call the meeting to order.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, has everyone seen the agenda?
Yes.
Has everyone reviewed the minutes and have any questions, corrections, or motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
The minutes are approved. So our first and only agenda item, conditional zoning text amendment. I think you've spoken about it a couple times, and we can put some finality on it tonight.
This microphone's not on, so I'm just gonna yell at you.
You don't need to. Question.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
That's exactly.
Okay, because I'm wrote all over that. So
Oh, that's fine.
I just want to keep, I will stick to one in the fifth.
Okay. So this is, this text amendment is actually a couple of text amendments, a couple of edits to the UDO. First of all, like we discussed at last month's meeting, this is an effort to put the planning board back into the conditions for, otherwise, businesses that are not, or uses that are not, easy to do according to our table of uses. So I'll just get into it. Based on the last meeting, the concerns that the planning board brought up were project accountability. Concerns were raised in 3 or review period before action could allow projects. Now, in the draft, I left it that way because I figured over the course of the month and with this coming up, I figured that maybe someone would make a suggestion. We've been leaving the 3 years. We said it's arbitrary, or somebody could make a suggestion, and that would be one of the amendments to the text amendment that I would be happy to add in there to set the Board of Aldermen. The Oak Island thought 3 years was enough. You guys can do whatever you like. I will be happy to put that in there for you.
What's in it?
That's the review process. That's the so in the flow chart, the very last step of the, sorry, I'm skipping through the memo just because of the discussion that we had last month. If you let me find the flow chart for you. I would have had it on a PowerPoint,
But
however,
this is why.
get it to work. All right, I'm gonna pull it up anyway. At least I'll be able to explain it to you. I thought I put it in there, but maybe not. Yeah, it acts like it's going somewhere, but it's clearly not. Hold on 1 second. I'm showing you.
So
What was thinking? He just missed.
yeah, why
Act upon it.
can't we just use the current language that's in the SUP?
Yeah.
Section 155, 455.
Yes.
So literally it says, a special use permit after approval with substitute special conditional zoning for special use. After approval by the Board of Aldermen shall expire 1 year after the approval date if work is not commenced or if a case of change of occupancy, the business is not open. However, it may be upon request continued in effect for a period not to exceed an additional year by the UDO administrator. So that if we use that,
Put that in there.
then that
This used to be.
well, no, it is.
Yeah.
That's what we got.
Yeah,
That's what it is still currently.
I agree with David on what
Okay.
it says.
Let's see. Yeah, it's right there. Yeah.
Yeah, 154,
Yeah.
4510.
Page 13.
Yep.
See.
That's 13, sorry, I can't read.
That's not a problem. 1 year review period, language of 155 4.
Oh, if the business was closed for 12 months, students.
Well, that's
Right,
state statute.
Right.
Yeah.
But the other two, there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think.
Well, see, the thing with the conditional zoning, so special use permit, if a business closes for 365 days per state statute, it would revert back to, it would have to go back either to get a new special use permit, or it would have to, be a permitted use.
Like the
That's
baby
kind of
more.
what happened with Bevy Moore.
Right, exactly. Yeah, they were closed for less than a year, so they were able to reopen as a,
But also in their
or no,
project,
they were closed for more than a
They were
year, which is
closed more
why
than
they had to get a
Yeah.
new special use
Yeah.
but
permit.
in their project of redoing it, I should say.
Redoing it, yeah.
Were they in jeopardy of this, not getting it going in the year or not completing it?
No, no, because they were constantly doing work. What happens a lot of times with larger developments, mostly with, subdivisions and things like that, which we don't have to worry about here, is you issue all these permits and then the company goes bankrupt or something like that, and then it sits there for a year and nothing ever happens. So what ends up happening is, in that scenario, the SUP would revert back, like all of their permits that would have been issued, that work wasn't done on it, the SUP expires, the work permits expire. It would go back to, they would need to get a new special use permit or make the land something that was usable under the table of uses. Without a special use permit. That's what that's for. They were constantly doing work on that property, so they were never in danger of
And you can,
expiring it.
that section actually allows them to come to the Board of Aldermen. And the Board of Aldermen can extend. There's no limitation on that extension.
Well, that section there would allow me to say, okay, we'll give you another year.
Or just one year, but then after
And
that,
after that,
then they can go back to the board and do it. I mean, I just think that if you're gonna have a business that, whether it goes bankrupt or something like that, and it sits there for over a year,
Yeah.
then I would think the citizens of Wrightsville Beach would want,
if it sits there for 2 years, then I would suspect that they would need to go through the entire process again.
which would make
It
sense.
would automatically revert after 2 years, and because, I mean, the Board of Aldermen is basically not going to say,
And
yeah,
then
we'll
what's
just
in
let
one
it go
day?
on, you know, for another new year. So,
Robert,
yes, sir.
I don't want to jump back and forth between the existing SUP and now the
Sure.
conditional.
Well, they're very similar.
But other than this 3 year, now we're talking the 1 plus 1.
Mhm.
It seemed to me there was something about it would come back to the planning board in the conditional zoning, that to solve something like that. Whereas under the SUP, it's in the hands of the DO administrator.
So under the review of approval of conditional zoning districts, it is intended that the property shall be reclassified to a zoning. Therefore, no sooner than we clear that to the 1 year after the date of approved of the petition, the UDO administrator may examine the progress made towards development the property in accordance with the approved petition and may additional. Okay, here it is. A report to the findings of the UDO administrator may be provided for the planning board consideration, which may then recommend that the property be rezoned to its previous zoning classification. That is, if they've run out, I guess, but I'm not sure.
One way or the other, it seems that they should both be the same.
Yeah.
So,
So what I would do, if this was in question, I would probably just. It's just weird that it says that the UDO may extend it by 1 year. I think that should probably be in the hands of maybe the Board of Aldermen. And so it would go to the planning board and then the Board of Aldermen to extend it for another year.
So the item 2
Yeah, number 2 under 155.485.
would simply latch on to this, the wording in the previous
Right.
ordinance.
Yeah. So that way, if you all were recommending that the UDO review of the conditional zoning be 1 year and no progress had been made on it, then I would say that if the applicant wanted to extend it for another year, then I would just bring it back and ask for, the planning board's consent on that, I suppose. But I mean, it's just strange that I hadn't thought of this, to be honest with you, before. That it says that the UDO can, administrator can extend it by a year.
You can make it mirror the same way, Robert.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we'd have to do.
With that,
So no, so just to be clear, at the end of this, are we taking a vote on these recommendations?
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so-
I mean, you can make,
That's fine.
you can,
So we're gonna do no UDO, add that section in that we talked about in the SUP with no UDO approval. Instead, it would go back before the planning board and board of aldermen after 1 year. Neil, is that right?
no, after the second.
Second year.
After the second.
Yeah, in other words, to put the kibosh on it.
Okay,
Right. And if you don't feel encouraged to give them another year, you might want to bring it back and share that.
okay.
after second,
And that after the second year, they're kind of low.
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry.
yeah, so I mean, that way it's
I would
not
approve
on,
it.
like, that way administratively, we could say, okay, we're officially gonna give you another year. And then when year 3 rolls around, they're like, I've done as much as I can to help you out with this. You're gonna have to go back to the planning board. But
There'd be some circumstances, you know, like
Right.
maybe you had a big storm
Yeah.
or.
And I'm not saying that they need to pay for another conditional zoning petition. I'm just saying that they need to bring their application back. To say,
Explain why.
hey, can we have another year of this? Get the finances in order. Marcel.
Things the objective is that we don't want to have a large, well, not that we have large traffic in, but
Right.
large open-ended things that, sit around and.
That makes sense to me.
Okay.
So
Would you make the motion eventually, if you want, make the motion over it? Robert, it's not gonna work.
I don't know what's happening.
All right. Neil, next one.
Yeah, I found it interesting to see that there's this, thing about an election and a swearing in.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Oh, within, you can't do it.
Can't
Can't do it
do it
within-
until it's all over.
Yep, yep,
Makes a lot of sense.
saw that. It's good.
This summary on page 17, public input meeting in item 2, the report for the planning board will include a summary of the public input. But prior to that, the item 1, sorry, prior to the planning board, the application that they must conduct one public input, file a report. Is there any particular structure or, itemized list of things that you want to define for that report?
You added that in the beginning, add requirement for minutes taken to include issues discussed and speakers. And that probably would include what you're talking about, right?
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
See,
Yeah.
that bothers me anyway, because whoever's presenting it's gonna slant it towards
Yes.
how they want it to be, but then you told me, well, you got to have a hearing with the planning board anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
They can come back.
I mean, this is, so the thing is. The public input meeting for them is more for their benefit. So, so that they can not waste your time. Presumably, they would find any sort of pushback from the public.
Or it
And
came
you
to
would,
us.
before it gets to you, address those issues. It's like I said, it's more for their benefit so that they're not wasting their time because you will presumably raise many of the same concerns that they receive at the public input meeting.
Or different ones.
Right, exactly. So I mean, that's what. Exactly. So I mean, that's what I'm saying.
So we don't really worry about that.
I wouldn't think so. I mean, as long as they took the meetings
Yeah,
and I mean, the minutes and laid out exactly what they had and then presented them in their report for the planning board meeting, you could see that they had the public had these questions and they addressed them. And then you could think of other angles and ask questions.
here's this. Where it tells you what went on in the public input. Shall include time, date, location, description of the proposal. Include a copy of the letter. Attendance roster, summary of the issues discussed. results of the meeting include changes to the project's proposal again. So that's kind of vague.
Yeah. And that seems to be comprehensive, but I just was wondering if there was something missing that I've come up with, but I wonder if anybody has any experience with these types of public inputs. And if they you've observed how they've captured the information, recorded it, or stenographer, or whatever it is.
We've never done that, have we?
No, I don't mean here, but like Wilmington and
Wilmington does it all the
yeah.
time.
Yeah, I'm sure that if they had an attorney, they would have someone taking those minutes.
In Pender County, I mean, Carolina Beach copied Pender County. I think Oak Island copied somebody else's, and I basically copied Oak Island's. So, so there are plenty of experiences around. I can just call and ask.
I'm almost going to the point where we require the stenographer. I don't want to be stupid here, but you know, the strange point is the sea of input that they get.
Right.
And as Kitty said, you know, they get slanted.
I think because this is a public, because it's a lot different than an SUP, I think we're gonna hear a lot more from the public when this comes. I mean, if there's a contentious public hearing, we're gonna know.
When it comes to playing.
Yeah, we're gonna know about it. Because
Versus hearing it through the grapevine before the public.
Right, so-
We get in a selected motions.
So another thing to consider also is that report will be included in your planning board packet, which will be posted on the website, so anybody can go in and read that, and if somebody across the street says, well, I was there, that doesn't accurately reflect that, then they can come to the planning board meeting and talk about it, about how they were misled, or or the Board of Aldermen meeting,
Well,
and,
they've got to present the whole thing to us anyway,
right,
right?
exactly,
So we
That's
can
right.
either pay attention or not pay attention.
right, so,
I
yeah,
shouldn't
right.
say that, but.
Exactly. So, I mean, just like any other, text amendment, you're gonna have your public input, and then or rezoning, I mean. You're gonna have your public input, staff presentation, applicant presentation, and then public, input, and then you all ask questions of staff and the applicant. And, presumably that works it all out, because, I mean, just consider that this report is a requirement that was not even required in the special use permit process, and we still worked all of that out at the meetings.
How about talk to one of those, like Carolina Beach, people at Carolina Beach, talk to them and ask them how that's worked. The public hearing,
Okay,
it's just for opinion.
sure.
Because Wrightsville Beach is pretty much smaller than any of those places, except for, how do you say that word? Elatier or something,
Oh,
Here.
Elatier,
yeah.
they're pretty small, but everybody else is bigger than we are. But it'd be interesting if they've had an experience with the public hearing, how it went.
I might be a coffee social in that size town.
They know everybody, don't they?
Learn more.
On the page 19, at the top, just above item 5, accordingly, resubmittal of a minor or major site plan is not required. And I didn't follow the context of why it's something called a major site plan.
Under 19, what was that?
Page
Where
19 up at the top, just
Less
above item 5.
Okay, so no zoning or building permit shall be issued for any development activity within a conditional zoning district except in accordance with the approved petition and applicable site plan and or subdivision plat. Non-residential projects may comply with the site plan requirements of section 15552 by including said requirements on the approved master development plan. Accordingly, resubmittal of a minor or major site plan is not required. So there are specific requirements for a major site plan and a minor site plan. Major site plan will include everything like your surveys, a lighting plan, which hopefully we'll add at some point to commercial districts at least. Your flood plain, your floodwater management is required on a major site plan, but it's not required on a minor site plan. So what we did with this, because what we have done in the past for a small business, for example, of somebody, I keep going back to the workshop because it is a special use in an existing structure. Technically speaking, the workshop is required to do a major site plan. Every special use requires a major site plan, and that's always been a problem because major site plans are very expensive. I mean, a coffee shop attached to a much larger building in a building complex requiring a special use permit, having to provide a major site plan for the entire facility is a problem with our current ordinance. So we left a minor site plan in there to cover that. So larger projects would still require a major site plan, but if it was something small, like a coffee shop, for example, we would only require a minor site plan. And basically this carve out, having said all of that, this carve out is just to say that if they had to go back and change something as far as the conditions that were put on them by you, recommended conditions by you or the Board of Aldermen, then they wouldn't necessarily, they could adjust those conditions without having to resubmit another site plan. Because some of those conditions might not affect their site plan, so there's no need for them to resubmit it. If we didn't put this sentence in here, every single time that they adjusted their business plan, they would have to submit a new site plan. So I think that's why we put that in there.
Thank you. And then the last section there.
That's the
One of the first
3-year
change,
thing, yeah.
Take that out. Therefore.
Right, I dropped that down to 1 to mirror the current language.
Thank you.
You dropped what down to 1?
The 3 year to 1 year.
Oh, you did. Therefore, no sooner than 1 year after the date.
Yes.
Um,
And then no UDO administrator approval after the second year would have to go back to the planning board to request more time.
Anyone else?
Good.
Yeah,
Robert, what was your source of information on this you listed for ourselves? Issues and all that stuff.
Mainly Google and sending out emails. Most of it is just census data, and then going in and then looking at their ordinance to see what they did for conditional zoning, and then looking at their zoning map to see what their towns look like. That's basically it.
Yeah.
So I guess your primary source would be census data. Secondary source would be your the zoning map and the UDO of the municipality that I benchmarked. And then asked them if they had any issues with it. Nobody's had any issues with it. What's her name? From Carolina Beach. Gloria said, don't copy ours. I don't know why. She didn't give me details, but I didn't. But it wasn't because of that. It was just
She scares you.
No, we went with Oak Island because it more matched.
Next, our side.
Yeah. And then so the next part of this, we've already talked about it. Essentially, it was just to find all and replace S, which was for special use, to CZ, which is for conditional zoning. So everything that originally was a special use would become conditional zoning. If that needs to be tweaked, that is pretty much contingent on Grady's feedback, which I hope to have soon.
there are no state mandated SUPs, correct?
No,
I'm sorry, I didn't get the first part.
State mandated SUPs.
no, the state doesn't require any specific type. They just require how the processes play out. The next one, so this is the order for the conditional zoning, just what it might look like. I put the public notice in there. What's not on here, we've already. Oh, this bothers me. Been having technical issues. So you've already voted on it, but the adjustments to the special use permit.
Mhm.
I took it to the board after. Yes, okay, so the SUP adjustments is technically a text amendment as well. So I took it to the board and they literally forgot to vote on it. And so it died there because they were like, well, we don't like our planning board not doing anything, so figure something else out. And then I said, okay. And then everybody in the room forgot that there was a text amendment involved in this step. So what I would like to do is revote on this special use permit adjustment that takes the planning board input out of the special use permit because it's just a waste of time. And then vote for the conditional zoning. That way, like I said, one ends, the new one begins immediately.
And when you're saying vote, do you mean us or them, the board?
Oh, you, because
Okay.
technically speaking, that text amendment is dead.
Yes.
When we all forgot to vote on it, it died. So.
So we
Gotta
just
start
need,
over again.
we need a motion to
Please make
approve.
some adjustments.
Well, yeah, let's do
Yeah.
the SUP text amendment again. We'll make
Sure.
a motion for that. Does anyone make a motion? Any second?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor of the prior SUP text amendment?
With the addition of the purpose and applicability that uses for existing special use permits issued prior to the
Yes.
adoption of conditional zoning.
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
And, sorry, the exclusion of exterior architectural appeal.
Yes, oh no, that's in the conditionals.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, that is in the special use. Why is that even there?
Well, we can make the motion of the changes that we made several changes, striking out.
Yeah,
Let's strike
struck that out.
Residential.
I've got that down on,
Okay.
Okay, for some reason I was thinking that it was in conditional zoning and I had carried that over from a town that
Yeah, we just struck
that
it
used
out.
it and we didn't use it.
That was number 4, we struck
Yeah,
it
there's no
out.
use to have it, so that's good. I'll add that in there and the strikeout, 155454 subsection E, subsection 4.
Does he need to make a new motion?
No, that's.
Now we make a conditional.
so original zoning motion. It looks like we had, I think I wrote down 8 corrections.
I'm sorry, who seconded it?
I did.
8 on the existing.
On the exist, on
On
the
the
conditional
conditional.
zoning. So I can
changes.
read them out if y'all want me to, and then someone can.
Yeah, and I'll follow along with you.
The first one was, we were going to add the language from section 155.4510. Which was in the SUP regarding the 1 year. And then after a second year, it would not go before the UDO, but instead it would come back before the planning board and the alderman.
It's page 13.
Yes. The second one, we want to define public input. And who shall have standing as residents, business owners, property owners, and those within 500 feet of described property,
Yep.
subject to attorney approval.
Second, say that again.
Public input those who shall have standing at public input sections shall be defined as residents, business owners, property owners, and those within 500 feet of subject property, subject to attorney approval.
Is that 500 feet? Is that standard?
That's the difference between,
It's
conditional- yeah, the circle
Yeah,
around.
specifically perimeter.
Hmm.
150 feet is standard for us, but because we're not 100% sure how the standing would work across the bridge, we'd have
Okay.
to. I mean, Grady needs to
You can
get back
yeah.
with me on that because that was a specific question that I asked him.
Okay.
Next,
And we also found that large parcels of land, depends on where you put your dot.
That's
right. Which side of the land to do it, yeah. All right, next, add requirement, for the public input meetings that there shall be minutes taken, including issues discussed and names and addresses of speakers. Knows that?
Yeah.
Yep. Next. Removal of section E4 of 155.4.5.4, which was,
And that's the special use permit.
okay,
We did that one.
okay, good. Section 155.4.8.1, paragraph 2. Add except for existing churches
Right.
after residential zoning. In that same section, change island portion to island portions with an S.
Yep.
Number 155, and this is actually, 155.4.8.1, paragraph 5B. Remove single family.
Yep.
I believe those were, did I forget any?
The no, that was it. That's all I got. No approval, yeah, you already went over those earlier.
So does anyone want to make a motion including those
That's
considerations?
the 3-year thing. Did you change?
We changed.
We did, that was
Did you read that? Did you read that when you were going over your stuff?
that was the first one.
Okay.
I'll make a motion for the bar though. Do I have to read all of them?
No. You
I'll
can make a motion with the,
I'll make a motion to
Approve.
approve
Of
and
those,
all
of state
those,
amendments.
all those eight.
You have to recite it, Leanne.
Well, that's what I'm.
Exactly.
Yes.
You're good.
A second.
all in favor?
Ah,
That's that. Passes unanimously.
now figure it all out and get it.
Yep. Now good luck. All right, next thing we have is old business. Any other old business? Next thing we have is other business from any board members.
I got a few questions.
Before Neil,
One is, do we have any businesses that are not operating, sitting idle?
Say that again.
What do you mean not operating? You mean like the gas station?
Yeah, I guess that's not a business, but they probably don't have whatever permit they had, right? That's all.
I thought
That's gonna be a mess.
they were issued permit for the docks.
That was a long time
Are
ago.
we talking about the old Scotchman store?
Right.
Well, I asked a general question, but then that was one specific item of it.
Yeah, I don't know any, that's the only one that comes to mind, is the old Scotchman store, but. We haven't heard anything, I think, since the bridge construction that maybe kind of put everything on hold,
Mhm.
so.
Do they need
I don't go downtown a lot,
permits?
central business, but I always wonder, I don't see the
Is it
22
gonna
north
be cut?
open, are they open?
Yeah, they typically Thursday night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
we're just sleeping by the time they're.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's only like 2 nights.
In the morning.
Yeah.
Videos at 2 a.m., right?
Going through this, it just dawned on me that, if stuff sits idle for a while, there's consequences.
Yeah, just at night, on the weekends.
When do you see the camera land use plan update?
It's gonna be a few more years, I mean,
Okay.
the next, plan that'll be updated, the hazard mitigation plan. And then the camel land use plan, will come up in a few years probably.
Got it. Thank you.
Anything else? Real quickly, Andrew Cook resigned from the board. He's moved off the island. So the board of aldermen are going to be appointing someone, I believe, on Thursday.
This Thursday.
This Thursday, yeah, so I think we'll have a new board member coming aboard.
Is the board meeting this week?
It is on
Yeah.
Thursday.
It's always the same weekend.
It's usually the week after. I don't
That's
know
what
why
I
they're doing
thought.
it earlier.
They changed it.
Yeah.
It's
Did
just
they
next
change it?
Thursday.
No, it's
Second Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it lines up to be on the same.
Thursday, okay.
Yeah.
And with that said, we're-
Tuesday, the second Thursday, sometimes those happen at the same
Same,
week.
same weekend. With that said, we appreciate Jim Smith attending today. Anything from y'all? Motion to adjourn,
Make a motion to adjourn.
second,
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Now, so next meeting, will you have this all spiffed up or are we good with it now? We've finished.
We've approved
We don't
it.
have-
So now we'll go on.
We don't have,
Give her the copy owners now.
we don't have to do anything.
Yes, ma'am.
Done.
Yeah, it'll go-
In town,
Oh, right,
It was
right.
been ago.
Did you see him?
Yeah, I saw my, I'm gonna babysit.
So we'll have to.
They were, it was 10.
What were they gonna pay us?
They rented, they were here for, okay, you know, his daughter, he's my boyfriend Royal, that they probably would have been married. They said Royal got this weekend. Okay, it wasn't this past weekend, it was last week.
Yeah.
So Royal got married down there. So they were very close to this
Oh,
now.
my.
Yeah, it was very warm. So they,
Oh, my goodness.
he married a girl, Stotts. Is her.
So you went and read the block.
Daddy, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. There was some-
Came in town for the
He
wedding?
got a card with us?
No, not yet.
He texted me, I think I'm submitting my baby's food and all that stuff. and I Made all the food.
Oh, that
They
is.
rented the house right next door to one of my best friends on.
How high is
Scary,
it?
but she's.
Real high.
It's not bad.
Right across the little bridge, going towards Johnny Moore, this little bridge. That big little house got built beside the little bridge. They went